Welcome to Porthcawl.
Well, hello. We're back home for a few weeks, and we thought instead of sitting in the house watching Judge Judy all week, we'll take you on a little tour of Porthcawl, our hometown, on the coast in South Wales. Well, Porthcawl is really famous for its beaches. This one is Rest Bay, and it's really popular with surfers. And overlooking Rest Bay is the Royal Porthcawl Golf Club. And last year they hosted the Ryder Cup Seniors Tournament in 2017. Also in town we've got a marina, a new marina in the old harbour. We've got a fun fair, Coney Beach, and in town they've got a museum run by volunteers. We'll take a look at that later. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the Elvis Festival. Porthcawl is home for one of the biggest Elvis festivals in the world. Every September all these Elvises turn up, and Elvis around town. And according to the independent newspaper, we get more people coming to the Elvis Festival in Porthcawl that actually go to the Elvis Week in Memphis. Anyway, that's enough chatter. Remember the motto: document, move on. Let's go and take a look around Porthcawl. Well, that big wall behind me is part of Porthcawl Pier. It's a really big pier considering the size of the current harbour, but it was built when Porthcawl was still a busy coal port. What's amazing, during the winter when the big Atlantic storms are coming up the channel, the waves smash against it and they go about 50 or 60 foot over the top. They always use the footage on the BBC or weather forecast for stock storm footage. The sea behind me is pretty calm today. Nothing like the winter storms we get. Another fact about this, the reason why we get such big waves as well, is the tidal range is massive. The tide's out now, it's coming in slightly. It goes from basically 0 to 10 meters in height. That's about from 0 to about 30 foot, so a 30-foot range during certain times of the year. Because of the massive tidal range as well, the currents are really strong, especially on the outgoing tide. So if you're out swimming and get caught in one of those, next stop, United States. Well, Porthcawl itself is relatively new, a couple of 100 years old. Initially there were just two villages, Newton, this is the village we're in now, and about a mile up the road is Nottage village, and they're connected by a road called, Newton Nottage Road. So this is Newton village. Behind me is the old parish church, and it's a well over there, St John's Well, and it's about 50 yards, 100 yards down to the sea. Newton Village itself dates from the 12th century, and the church behind me is a Norman church dating from 1180. During the 15th, 16th century it was rebuilt and later restored in the 19th century to the condition you see it today. Unfortunately it's locked today. I can't get in. They must have seen me coming like the Omen and bolted the doors. Behind me is Newton Beach. This is the most easterly beach of Porthcawl. These dunes go all the way over to Ogmore by Sea, and the dunes themselves, if you want to check out our videos, we did a video on Merthyr Mawr sand dunes, which are the big ones behind me. They actually filmed scenes from Lawrence of Arabia there. Yep, this area did actually double for the Arabian desert. It's hard to think that when you look at the wind and the grey skies. So this is the old police station. It's only got 3 cells, so obviously they weren't expecting much trouble in old Victorian Porthcawl. So now we're in the reconstruction of the old Victorian schoolroom, and I've come appropriately dressed for the occasion. High-class boarding school for girls, as opposed to the low-class one down the road. So in the first cell is an exhibition on 100 years of the suffragettes. This is the second cell, and it's about Porthcawl railway station and the rail link, which all disappeared before I was born. Wish we had it now. The last cell is all about the sea, the Coast Guard and the lifeboats and some of the ships that were wrecked around the coastline here. So this is the most famous wreck. It sank in 1947, the SSM Tampa. It sank on Scare Point, which is a few miles up the coast, and it's the lifeboat crew from the Mumbles. They were all lost at sea. So there's a list of all the people that died in the shipping disaster.
This part of the exhibition was started when the RAF recorded its 100th anniversary this year, and so we created quite a display all about the RAF with the help of one of our members who has RAF connections, and we've tried to cover predominantly about Stormy Down, which of course is where the airbase was just above us here, where a lot of air gunners were trained. And part of that work last year was to create a permanent memorial at the Stormy Down site. Since then, we've got some links with the dam busters. And this time last week, we had the London Mint who create all the commemorative coinage, provided us with a donation of a commemorative dam busters coin, and a facsimile pack of flight information from dam busters. And at the same time, we met up with a relative of one of the dam buster crews who was sadly killed flying back, and she's been to Holland to visit the crash site, where she was presented with some parts and pieces of wreckage of her prisoners. And she kindly gave us a piece of that last week as well.
Okay, so is that...
It's on display just around the corner.
So that's the wreckage
Part of the wreckage of one
of the Lancaster bomber.
A for Apple.
Okay.
It crashed in Holland on the return.
Okay. So they completed the mission, but just with damage or something?
They were shot there.
Okay. Well, in this room, we've got a display relating to the First World War, the Great War. It's some little reconstructions of the old trenches there. So there's the German trench spade, the old German hat, some officer's boots, and another excuse for me to put on a silly hat. We're now inside the Grand Pavilion in Porthcawl, and this is where the famous civil rights activist and singer Paul Robeson did a live broadcast to the miners identified in 1957. He was denied the right to travel, but managed to do via a telephone link from New York. He did a live address to the miners.